So let's get into our first segment for today, which is our Tips from the Trenches segment. In this segment, we share some of our self-publishing and writing-related wisdom tips. More so, of course, all of us here on the BookFunnel team are authors, as is our guest today. So we'll go around and everybody can share a tip just related to self-publishing or writing, whatever it happens to be. I am going to go first this week. And I have been, like I said, I've been on an outlining kick as of late. And I know not everybody likes to outline. I know that there are plenty of people who are, there's pantsers and let's discovery writers, right, if you will. I know, I think last week the term that came up was plantser. When we talked with Becca, where you like plan and pants a little bit, is that what that? I don't know that. I've been listening to some of Brandon Sanderson's talks on YouTube lately, and little snippets that have been showing up in my feed. And he is an outliner, and I don't always see eye to eye with Brandon Sanderson, but on this I have. And to first preface by saying, when I outline, I'm planning a whole series. But then when I'm actually writing, when I'm in the middle of writing a chapter or a scene, I am discovery writing in that context. So I'm not I don't have that detailed of an outline, like scene by scene outline. But my tip for today is for the people who may consider themselves to be pantsers or discovery writers, or even for those who are outliners, whatever it happens to be. My tip is to have a formula for your series. And the reason why you want to have a formula is so that, especially if you're working on a new series, is that you have a framework and a structure to build the story off of. What I find is when I have a formula, and it's usually, I can go about it in a couple of different ways. Like I'm going to have a particular way that I open each book in the series. Like each book in the series is going to open with a flash forward, or each book in the series is going to open with a prologue from a random person who's not a main character, right? Like Game of Thrones, that series. The Song of Ice and Fire series opens that way. It has a particular formula to it. I find, even though that on paper might seem very like strict and limiting, it actually helps me be more creative because I have like a sandbox with borders that I can play in. And like, I know things can't go off the rails and go all the way over there. I have to keep it kind of within bounds. And within those boundaries, I can be creative. So developing a formula, whatever that looks like, whether it's, again, something like having a particular way that you start your books, or having a particular type of scene or touchstone that is recurring in each book in your series. This is a lot easier to do when you're starting a new series, I think, than to start doing this like in the middle of one. But that's my tip for today. Who wants to go next? Any volunteers? Kelly?
I'll go next. Yeah, I'll go next.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that when I'm writing, and I haven't done it this week when I've been getting all those great words in, and maybe I could have, but some people do really well with getting their word counts in if they have some sort of external motivation. And so one of the things that I've been using is, it's called For the Words. I think we've mentioned it on here before, but it's For the Words. It's a gamification of word counts. And so you have to battle monsters, like a little fantasy, and you're battling monsters in this little villages and stuff as you go through. Like this monster is 200 words in X amount of minutes, like 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to write 200 words.
Right.
And you'd be really surprised is that count, like how much faster you can write when you're like, well, I'm not going to win against this little Muppet thing or whatever it is, because they're all really cute little monsters. They're not scary or anything. But it's really fun, and it's silly, but you get coins, and your avatar gets like, you can bling them up a little bit, and you open new worlds and new parts of the world. It's just fun. And so, if you're a person that is like, hey, yeah, you know what, I would like to have a reward for myself, because you could battle, you can make a list of monsters, and they all have their own times and their own things. And so you could just keep typing. So you don't have to like stop every time every 10 minutes. You can set yourself up for an hour of writing, and get in, hundreds of words, or even thousands if some of them. So it's just a lot of fun, and I recommend it. And you can actually, I've used dictation to do that. So you dictate it to it.
Okay, yeah.
It goes even faster, mostly because I have it on my Mac. So I can dictate on my Mac and it'll dictate into their writing software. And then I just move it over to Scrivener after
Now
after I finished.
I'm looking it up here. Is it the number 4?
It's the
like
number
for
4.
the words? Yes.
For the words.
forthewords.com. That's fine. I'll have to check that out.
It's just
turning it into a video game.
Kind of, yeah. It's just, again, it's that if you really enjoy like those quick little dopamine hits of a reward system, it's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Gamification of the work you've already got to do.
Exactly. All right. Emma, you can go on. What do you got for us today?
Okay, well, I had one tip, but then you mentioned Brandon Sanderson. So I'm like, I'm going to change it. We do that a lot, don't we? I'm a planter.
Yeah, we do.
I planned one thing, but I intuitively switched. That's what a planter is. So he said something in his opening class of the 2025 lecture series that really struck me as a planter. He was saying, while you are writing the first draft, let your author, your artist free. Don't worry about the tropes. Don't worry about all of that, because that's one of my issues. I'm like, is it marketable? Is it marketable? He says, don't worry about the market. Write the story. When the story is done, then you put on your business hat and you let the business person worry how to sell it and market it and pull that stuff out. And I thought it was really interesting that a traditional published author said that, because you would think it would be the opposite mindset, write to market first. But no, he's like, but I guess it makes sense since he writes high fantasy and we tend to be more,
Yeah.
That's the tip.
Well, I wonder too.
Brandon.
I wonder too if there's a different, like in self-publishing, writing to market really is crucial because you are unknown. And I'm not saying that his advice should be ignored, but he's also coming from a different place. He's Brandon Sanderson. Right. Everybody knows who he is. I do still think it's great advice, but I don't know if you are traditionally published, which means you've already kind of made it through those initial gatekeepers. I don't know if like you're going to get paid to write the book, whether or not it's exactly a fit for the market. I do still think like editors are involved in all that process, and I'm sure it's very still. We want to keep it strictly in the. I'm not saying that he would suggest anything other than that, but yeah, I think writing to market is maybe also
something to be said though for his experience, because I was discussing this with a couple other author friends. Like I've been writing for 9 years, so I've internalized a lot of plot and trope structure, so I can pants something and go back, and that's all going to be in there because I've just internalized it. And I bet it's the same for him. So maybe if you're a newer author, I think I agree, Jack. Maybe be a little more cautious about going with the rails.
Right. Well, and he's coming from, you're listening to the master speak when he's saying that, you know what I mean? And so he's absolutely right. But yeah, I wonder too if you are traditionally published, you have some of that freedom to just be creative, and then you can rein it all in later, and you're not having to, I don't know. The pressures there are probably a little different. Whereas I know some self-published authors feel like writing to market is like, I must, from the get-go, I have to be in this very narrow window, and I have to define myself in this book or this series very, very specifically. So yeah, I think that's good advice to just kind of like be a little more loose and relaxed, and then come back and make changes later. Which is probably not something.
Indies might not have as much editing time too, because as indies we want to get stuff to market quicker. Trad, you have maybe a year or two to go back and pull it all back.
Right. Rein it all in and that sort of thing. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right. I mean, he's also writing, put that into perspective too, he's writing huge novels as well. So that's got to be, to then have to go back and rein all that in is also a lot of work. But anyway, I digress. I don't want to take it too far off the rails here. I think that's really good advice. Kay, did you have a tip for us today? Don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I do. So I was talking about my character, my main character in the new series being a little snarky, right? So I just heard about 2 weeks ago, heard about an improv comedy workshop, and I signed up and took it. And I would recommend it for every writer of fiction, and for nonfiction too, if you want to add some humor. And there were just some great exercises about how to free your mind, loosen yourself up. I didn't follow my face. It was all good. But I would just say, if you see an opportunity to do improv really of anything, go ahead and take it. it's a great idea
Yeah.
to like
That's
loosen
fun.
your creativity.
Right.
That's a great idea.
Right. Well, and I imagine there's a lot of overlap in, obviously you're doing something a little different, trying to
Uh-huh.
make people laugh as opposed to writing a book. But the improvisation aspect of things, you're flexing that creative muscle still, I guess. So I could see there being lots of overlap there. Probably helps if you're also trying to write a character that maybe is a little snarky or has a particular sense of humor, maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But
Yeah, and another interesting aspect of it beyond the part of freeing your mind is when you watch yourself thinking about doing improv comedy, right? To see where your triggers and your fears come up is really interesting. Like, and as authors, we all have these emotions that come up, right? Is my book worthy? Am I writing a good book? All of that. And then you compress that into improv, being on the spot, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die 1,000 deaths. But kind of having courage and just getting out of your own way is a good exercise as well.
yeah,
I love that.
no, that's a great tip. Now I'm going to have to look for opportunities
Where
to do
did you-
stand up in my improv. And go ahead.
Where did you find that sort of a class or a course that you were taking? Where was that?
There's a guy by the name of Chris Trew, Trew. And I was in a speakers gathering, like a speaking group, and he was in to talk about improv, and then he had a class we could sign up for. And so that's how I intersected with him. And I imagine if you Googled him, you would find him. And he does a really interesting thing with every month. He has a session that you can, like sessions throughout the month, and you can, it's almost like a membership. You can just sign up and show up and do improv. And so that, I think, is really a great idea too, especially to keep yourself from getting stuck. Like if you're really burned out, a little dose of humor would go a long way.
Right. I could see that.
Yeah.
That is an angle. That is not something I've considered before. And for some people, I imagine that'd be a step outside your comfort zone.
It would
But
be.
then,
My inner introvert is like, I love the idea, but my introvert's like, ixnay.
Yeah, but think about, think about this. I just heard this statistic the other day, which just blew me away, that like 75% 75 or 80% of all fiction authors are introverts. And I mean, that is really huge. And so like getting out of your zip code or your comfort zone, whatever you want to call it, is a freeing thing for an author, let alone when we get started talking about after the book's written and you need to promote and you need to move into all of those strategies where you need to show up and stand out. I'm an introvert myself, but I choose extroverting behavior when I need to. And so I love the idea of improv. I'm going to go back.
You know, and as you're talking, I was thinking about it. If you're an author who's shy about getting on camera for like TikTok or Reels, I see the improv can really help you with that because like you said,
Yeah. I'm in some of my past careers have been in front of people, like that's just part of my job. And so I'm very comfortable in that context. Speaking in front of a group of people doesn't really bother me, teaching and that sort of thing. But then also to like have to be creative in front of people is another layer on that. Where in the past, when I was in front of people, like I have an outline, or like when I do my webinars, right? Like I have notes and I have bullet points that I speak off of, and I kind of already know what I'm going to say, right? But to improv and to come up with it on the spot, the one thing it makes me think is that, you know, if you can do that, writing a book is easy. Like sitting down and writing the book itself is going to be easy. So that's
like, no improv with PowerPoint, right?
Right.
No improv with an outline. Like it's just you up there on the stage.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, there is.
Story Wars that we saw at Author Nation, and I don't know if you had the chance to go to Author Nation, but the Story Wars, man, having those people just improv a writing piece on the fly, I am in awe of every single one of you that even attempted this.
Yes,
do that is amazing.
Story Wars was an experience. Honestly, we should we should reach out to those folks because it would be
Yeah.
fun to talk to them too about that. Because like you're saying, Kay, it's an improv sort of thing. You get like 5 minutes to write a short story, and they give you like a writing prompt, and then you have to read it out in front of the whole crowd, and then everybody votes, and it's a whole. So it's an improv type setting, but it's more writer focused, a little bit of a hybrid there, I suppose. But any improv opportunities sound like they would be really beneficial to authors who are willing to like put themselves out there. Obviously, you've got to like take that step. That's definitely a step.
I would never have even for 1 second thought of doing this improv if it weren't for a book that I read last year on introversion. Because as I'm working on this Bold Authors Network program, and I'm realizing how many fiction authors are introverted and how that impacts their ability or willingness to do promotions, I was looking into some introversion, and there's a book with the great title. It's I'll Be Late. I think it's Don't Wait for Me, I'll Be Late. And then the subtitle is I Didn't Want to Come Anyway. And it's a woman who chronicles a year of her trying to get over introversion. And the capstone of her was actually doing improv comedy. Yeah. So that was like the end goal for the year, was to actually get up on stage and not break down and leave.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, here's a little opportunity I can do.
Exactly. No, that's on the list now. That's on my bucket list. I'm going to hold myself to that one of these days.
So
I say
Jack,
one of these days.
You could actually bring Chris on and do it.
Hey, there you
live
go.
And see how it works. That would be great. You guys would love it.
That could be fun.
Have so much fun.
A BookFunnel Story Wars? Oh my gosh.
Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos from BookFunnel, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.